Thank you. I want to thank my colleagues who helped organize this and those great organizations who are here because it's those organizations, the community involvement corporations, that the May Dugan centers that are really the heart and soul of the neighborhood. So thank you. In 2008, the first from February through July of 2008, each Thursday, a group of 15 citizens met to discuss Cleveland's charter. Our charter requires that we do this every year, that we assemble a group of 15 citizens to review the charter and make recommendations of those changes. And I was fortunate enough to be one of them. Section 25 of our charter, previous to as it currently reads, states in pertinent part that the city shall be divided into 21 wards. We knew in the Charter Review Commission that this was an issue that the size of council is an issue that people had talked about in different forums, whether it was the plain dealer or citizens talking. We knew that it was an issue that we needed to hear from people about, and we needed to make a decision whether we were going to recommend amending the charter or leaving it as it was. The Charter Review Commission hosted several public meetings to solicit input on this issue. At the public meetings, most of the feedback that we received was that people were happy with the current size and form of government. Those of you who were present at those meetings probably heard a lot of the groups that were there and how they passionately talked about their need for representation and their satisfaction with the current system. However, we did also receive emails on our website, and we did receive feedback from other individuals that they thought that the size and structure of council should be something different. So the Charter Review Commission hired Triad Research to assist us in looking at the demographics and looking at comparable cities to decide if what we were doing was good for the citizens of Cleveland. And we considered a number of things. We considered the size of council. Is 21 a good number? Because if you had been keeping abreast of the issue or reading what was suggested by some people, you would hear 11 or 15 or 7 or 1, depending on who you read. And that was out there in terms of just reducing the number. There's also a thought that Cleveland should consider whether we want to elect council people at large. Whether we should have Columbus as at-large. There's other cities in Ohio that have at-large governments, and that's something we should consider. And there was also a suggestion that we should have some type of blended form of government with some at-large members, with some ward-based members, and with an elected council president. So we spent, along with Triad Research, we formed a subcommittee to look at all of these issues. And the threshold issue, after we talked about it for quite some time, the threshold issue that we couldn't quite get over was that nobody has quite made the case that if we were to change what we had, government would somehow be better. That if we went to 15 members, that legislation would get done quicker or more effectively or would be more thoroughly deliberated. We never made that first case. We considered what should we do in terms of at-large, and Triad Research had pointed out to us that there was an initiative to popularly elect the council president, and that initiative was defeated by the voters of the city of Cleveland. And the subcommittee took that the citizens do not prefer to elect at-large members, and we had not heard much support for that would be the proper way to go. And we looked at 12 comparable cities in terms of what is their form of government. Cities about Cleveland size, about our population. What is our form of government that like cities do, and what should we do? And we came to an answer after looking at these cities, is that the overwhelming conclusion was that there is no perfect system. And there's no perfect system of government for each individual city. And everything depends on the tradition of your city, the makeup of your city, what the citizens want and what they're comfortable with. the cities we determined to be most like Cleveland, St. Louis, Milwaukee, others had a ward-based system. And we thought that there was some value in the ward-based system. And we asked the question, do we make a change? And there were many on the subcommittee who thought, we don't really need to make a change because this is Cleveland's tradition of government. But the argument that really kind of stuck with people, we really had to consider, was that the population of the city of Cleveland has decreased. And that's an undeniable fact. And should the government that represents the people reflect that change? And we thought that it should. We thought that it's a good argument that while our tradition is a ward-based system, and this system has served the city well for many years, that's the tradition of government that the people of the city of Cleveland, that is our tradition, and that's what we wanted to stick with. But that being said, do we need 21 members? And we decided that no, we think that the population, our government should reflect the population of the city to the extent possible. So then we went to the next inquiry, which was like, well then what is the number? And we had to make a decision. 21 was a number that was picked. And we were deciding, do we just pick a number? Do we just pick 17, 15, 19? By the way, the number has to be odd, so there's no ties. And what we determined was that when we looked at the population of the city of Cleveland and what did our representation look like through our history, through the times when Cleveland was thriving, through the 40s, the 50s, the 30s. And what we looked at was that from every census period from 1940 through 1970, the population, the ratio of council people to citizens was 1 to somewhere in the mid-20s, somewhere in that range. Until you get to 1980. In 1980, that ratio dipped so that there was one council person representing less than 20,000 people. And interestingly, the people of the city of Cleveland passed a charter amendment to reduce the number of council people from 33 to 21 during that year, the year thereafter. And the next census showed a ratio of about 1 to 26, just over 25,000. So looking at the tradition of the city of Cleveland, we concluded that it was reasonable to A, have our government reflect the decline in our population, and have it so that every 25,000 citizens, at least every 25,000 citizens, has a representative in the city council to do the traditions of government that you expect from your city council people. And a lot of the discussion that went into this form of government is that your council people in many municipalities are legislators, and legislators only. In Cleveland, we have a tradition where we are, in addition to being legislators, we're also advocates, we're also neighborhood problem solvers, and we have an ombudsman function, which takes up a considerable amount of time, and that's just arriving at that. So looking at that, we really thought that this was a workable, reasonable solution to the issue